pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for your patience as we made sure people got in safely today. All right, can I get an approval of the minutes of the meeting held on November 28th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have 3 people wishing to address the board tonight. If they're not actually here, Todd, what do? Got Chad Bishop, he's not here.
Maybe he's in the bathroom or something. Was he here and personally signed up? We have
Probably doesn't make it when it's his turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move to the next. All right, moving on to the next one. Rebecca Felice, if you please come up and give us your name and address, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. So name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
I'm Rebecca Felice, and I'm here with Julie Parker. I'm at 2704 West 28th Street. Deanne kindly has a video as well for us. Okay, we can start with that, if you wouldn't mind, because it's a professional athlete. You know, everyone wants to see that. Good way to start. I put you on the spot.
When it comes to keeping kids safe, we're all on the same team. As adults, it's our responsibility to keep kids out of harm's way. Part of that is preventing them from getting their hands on guns. Every year, hundreds of kids and young people die because they get a hold of guns. So many of these tragedies, suicides, unintentional shootings, even school shootings could be prevented. What can you do about it? It's simple. If you own a gun, lock it up, and encourage gun owners you know to do the same. Look, owning a gun is your right, but it's our responsibility to protect our kids and our communities. So please do your part. Be safe, be smart. We're in this together. Learn more about secure storage at besmartforkids.org.
Thank you, Deanne. Great. Again, I'm Rebecca Felice. I'm here with Julie Parker. We are parents, and our children are in the Sioux Falls School District, and we are volunteers with Be Smart. Be Smart is a nationwide program that's nonpartisan, non-political, and it works to keep kids safe by educating adults on how to securely store firearms at home. Tonight, we'll give you an overview of the Be Smart program, review a few national statistics concerning unintentional shootings involving children, discuss local incidences of gun violence, and conclude with a few action items. Educators and administrators work tirelessly to ensure the safety of students, and we're confident the Be Smart program would be an integral part of that mission. So what is Be Smart? S, secure all guns in homes and vehicles. M, model responsible behavior around guns. A, ask about the presence of unsecured firearms in homes that your children may visit. R, recognize the role of guns in suicide. Lastly, T, tell your peers to be smart. Here are a few national statistics concerning firearms and children. These statistics are provided by the Centers for Disease Control. Firearms are the leading cause of death among children and teens in the United States. 13 million households with children under 18 contain at least one gun, and 4.6 million children live in a household with a loaded and unlocked firearm. Lastly, 700 children living in the United States die by gun suicide each year. Lastly, I'll mention a few of our local Be Smart partners and state and national partners. Firstly, the Sioux Falls Police Department. We met with Chief Jonathan Toome about the program, and he expressed in particular that stolen firearms from vehicles is a particular concern for the police department. The Sioux Falls VA is a partner, the Helpline Center and Sioux Falls Lost and Found, the Sioux Falls Suicide Prevention Task Force. Statewide partner Aberdeen School District circulates Be Smart program each year. The Aberdeen Police Department is a partner. And lastly, national partners include the National PTA, Safe Kids Worldwide, and the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Parker. My address is 6909 West 64th Street. I have children in Pettigrew and Jefferson. We like to pretend that gun violence affects other people and communities, not ours, but that simply isn't true. Over 80% of school shooters under the age of 18 obtain the gun they used from a relative's home. This was the case in the 2015 Harrisburg school shooting in which the principal was shot. If not for the quick action of another staff member, the outcome of that shooting could have been quite different. The teenage shooter was able to access an unsecured gun from his home. In 2021, a Harrisburg high school student died by gun suicide with a gun accessed in his home. One study found that 3/4 of children know where their gun is stored, even when their parents don't think they know. In the spring of 2022, a student brought a handgun to a Catholic elementary school and was showing the gun to others on the playground at recess. This was a gun that his grandmother had given him for a present. And most recently, in the fall of 2022, there was the nationwide school shooting hoax that impacted the students and staff at Lincoln High School here in Sioux Falls. The South Dakota Department of Health Youth Risk Behavior Study revealed that in the past 10 years, there have been 215 South Dakota children and teens who have died by suicide, most of those occurring in 2020 and 2021. And suicide is the leading cause of death in South Dakota for children ages 10 to 19, with firearms being the most lethal of means. Securely storing firearms, locked, unloaded, and separate from ammunition, can help prevent the risk of unintentional shootings, gun suicide, and violence in our schools and community. It is always the adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid guns. The Sioux Falls School District is a trusted source of information and education for both children and the community. There are a number of ways that the school board and school district can partner with the Be Smart program. The board could pass a secure storage resolution and distribute that to all district families, asking parents to acknowledge the importance of secure firearm storage. Volunteers could give the Be Smart presentation to the board, to individual schools, and to one of the district's educational family forum presentation. Volunteers could present the Be Smart program as one of the district's community education programs. The district could distribute Be Smart secure storage information as part of the back-to-school information given to all parents. And volunteers would work with district personnel on other ways to get the Be Smart information to parents. In closing, we would like to continue the conversation regarding secure storage of firearms with the school board and appropriate district personnel to get this life-saving information to parents. It is in partnership with parents in the community that schools can further the safety of its students and staff. Our contact information is in the packets that we left for you earlier this month, and we would be happy to follow up with school district personnel to talk about this further. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and last, Chad Bishop. Name and address, please.
My mistake, I didn't get it pre-checked, but see if we can't get it done before the end. Good evening, my name is Chad Bishop. I live at 7405 South Valencia Drive here in Sioux Falls. In my long and rambling statement on September 13th of 2021 regarding a request to improve the curriculum on the topic of propaganda, I said a lot of words. One item I referenced specifically was the reading of Dr. Ibram X. Kendi's Anti-Racist Baby to my 4th grade daughter in the Sioux Falls School District. I frame the argument that this is an example of propaganda as the author claims babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. And he gets to define what anti-racist means. I didn't ask you to ban this book. I asked you to teach my children to recognize it for what it was, pure propaganda. On October 13th of last year, in a similar statement, I cited George Orwell's 1984 and the definition of the memory hole. At that time, I said, during our last presidential election, one significant piece of information that may have been damaging to one of the candidates was memory holed by the mainstream media and social media. The propaganda put forth was that this information was clearly Russian disinformation, and 50 different members of the intelligence community signed a letter to this effect. Did you know that emails handled by large providers are tracked? Cryptography is used to fingerprint emails using math and computer science in such a way that they can be proven to be legitimate at a later date. This is called domain keys identified email. One particularly capable technical expert was approached by a journalist with the full email data, including the headers. This expert documented the methods he used to cryptographically verify in a way that cannot be spoofed with known technology prior to the election. He did it in the public and in such a way as any curious journalist could have replicated it and verified prior to the election. 10% for the big guy now means something to everyone. In addition to teaching my children about propaganda, please teach our children about censorship and the memory hole. I am sure that seemed like an odd thing to bring up at the time, but now consider the reporting by none other than the Washington Post this March in an article titled, "Here's How the Post Analyzed the Hunter Biden Laptop." Attempts to verify their emails relied mainly on a technology called DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Email, or mail. DKIM is a cryptographic technology used by Google and some other email services to verify the identities of senders. Even the New York Times finally reported it in March. This is 769 days after the Post broke the story. A little late for voters in the Democratic Society to educate themselves on the subject. Now remember, 50 members of the intelligence community assured us this was Russian propaganda. Now it seems that it is, at least in part, verified using cryptography. It's interesting. So how did the dad at a Sioux Falls school board meeting scoop the Post and the Times by 5 months on DKIM? Even Argus. Now to the Twitter files. Now Elon Musk has allowed journalist Matt Taibbi to access the internal communications of Twitter to document what is being called the Twitter files. In part, this document is how Twitter censored in real time access to the original New York Post scoop on the Hunter Biden laptop. I still wonder, didn't anyone at Twitter understand DKIM? I haven't seen that question answered yet. Links to the source code for verification were published in a timely manner on their own platform from a credible expert. The censorship now appears to be part of a coordinated propaganda campaign, very real, very timely for the consideration of our new social studies standards. To the credit of the creators of the current social studies standards, they contain an entry specifically addressing propaganda under high school world history. 9 through 12, H3.2, interpret and critique historical propaganda sources based on their maker, date, place of origin, intended audience, and purpose. Much to my chagrin, the newly proposed standards do not have a specific reference to propaganda. I'm going to attempt to change that, maybe with your help. I will likely include the current entry. Of course, I'm going to want some others, perhaps something about COVID, or infection-induced immunity, or mucosal immunity, maybe perhaps on devices and social media to help our children understand how to navigate the modern world. Taking an inspiration from Mr. Robert Graham, I'm going to attempt to craft a handful of proposed curriculum changes on GitHub in an open source manner, the same way we develop code. I'm going to solicit input from anyone in the state who wants to participate. All educators engaging in good faith will be welcome. I will then take, parents too, anybody, citizens are welcome. I will then take these proposed changes to the next Department of Education hearing on the social studies standards and see what happens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We don't have anybody wishing to address the board on agenda items, so moving on to item 6, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. On to the good news report. Deanne.
Good evening. Tonight we are hearing a school spotlight from Jefferson High School. As you know, we are 1.5 years into the history of Jefferson High School, and they've already been making lots of headlines in many good ways. So Dan Conrad is here to share more about that.
All right. Good evening, and thanks for having Jefferson out here tonight. My name is Dan Conrad, principal at Jefferson High School, and this is my 3rd year at Jefferson, technically. My assistants, Miss Dolly Anderson and Mr. Lance Siebenoller and Mr. Statham, together we help to ensure kids have access at Jefferson. So a little bit about Jefferson. We opened up our doors in the fall of 2021. We serve the northwest area of Sioux Falls, and on the screen in front, you'll see our diversity as we look to provide opportunities. The picture on the right was our senior class this year as they tailgated for the first day of school. I don't know if you see that everywhere, but it's kind of a cool deal as you see the sunrise on Jefferson and some of the seniors, the class of 2023, excited for the start. And a little bit more, we have 107 classroom teachers, 6 counselors, success coordinator, social worker, a school nurse that provides that, and a little overview top down of Jefferson. Each fall, 2 falls in a row now, we try to do a fall activities kickoff. So what you see is our cheerleaders leading all of our fall activities. We do it on a Saturday, 4 o'clock. We have food. We bring out our community members and celebrate the start of school. And this time it was our football team coming on. They'll scrimmage later, but we do all of our fall activities, band, the cheerleaders, the comp cheer, comp dance teams. And I think that was a big thing of Jefferson as we got started, was to put things in place so we could dispel myths and rumors about what Jefferson would or would not have and generate some excitement about a new school being opened, and give that confidence that the Sioux Falls School District has a lot of good systems in place. Because the success of Jefferson in a 1.5 years isn't just Jefferson, it's the work the district has done. And having been a product of the Sioux Falls School District, I can attest to that. Some things we offer at Jefferson: project-based learning academy, freshman academy to help with transition 8th to 9th grade year, advanced placement courses. We have over 20 AP courses, and you would see those same courses at a Roosevelt, Washington, or Lincoln. And dual credit courses. Specific to Jefferson, we offer in-house a dual credit speech, government, and college algebra, along with teacher pathways. And this fall, we have 46 students in our teacher pathway 1 class, where they'll have the option for dual credit with USD. So a lot of good things. The kids have generated more than 70 clubs or activities where kids can be a part of as we go through. When we started Jefferson, we framed it on the message. I would say this would be our banner that we have in our classrooms. On the left-hand side, you would see the why. Why Jefferson? It's a place where all means all. That vision, people. We have a beautiful facility, but it's the people inside, the students, the staff, the community members that make it tick. And that drive, the compete piece. And compete's not about winning or losing. It is about those values of, I look at myself first, as all competitors do. I try to have the work ethic, the initiative to make right. My success of my teammates matters. I want to carry them with me. And probably most important is every kid has that optimism. The work they do is going to make a difference. So that's what frames this up. The next set of slides, you'll see areas are what would be, we want to help students become leaders. We want to help students become inclusive, serve others, and compete. So here's some of Cavaliers in action. So part of our Cavaliers include our first year. We have a Best Buddies program, and we're part of Unified Games and signed on. So on the right-hand side, you'll see our student athletes competing in Unified Games. On the left-hand side, you'll see pictures of our Best Buddies, and we have over 200 students who are participating in that, and that's why the 4 pictures. It takes a lot to get them in. That picture is framed in our library, but one of my best memories from our first year at Jefferson was our Unified Basketball Night, where The Roosevelt Rough Riders came over with Jefferson Cavaliers, and kids were kids. They had posters, they had signs cheering on everybody. And it was really cool to see the West Side come together and do that. Our goal is to continue that this year, and we hope to include the rest of the Sioux Falls schools in that event this spring. Leadership opportunities, whether it's in the classroom in the lower right in one of our innovation labs, students presenting to their peers on topics, or it's in our black box theater. That's a group of our National Honor Society students that are learning about opportunities to give back through the banquet, or that student leadership in that basketball game, unified basketball game we had last spring. Some more service. This last week, we had our first Jefferson High School Week of Generosity, where our student council partnered with other clubs and activities at Jefferson to have a highlight of the day. Last Monday, 1 week ago, they partnered with our JAG program, and they did an angel tree, providing opportunities for kids. We did a food drive, we did a clothing drive, and the week culminated as the Cavaliers took on the Rough Riders at Roosevelt, and we partnered with the 2 student councils to do a clothing drive at Roosevelt, a little competition between the 2 schools. Compete, on the left, you'll see we've had great success in our activities, and a lot of that with the kids and the coaches involved, whether that's football on the left, volleyball in the center. The one on the right is Miss Avery Summers, a junior at Jefferson. She is our first state champion in tennis, women's singles. In fact, she's a 2-time state title winner. But if you look at the box in the center, we have our 2 national merit semifinalists this year, Samantha Anderson and Ethan Bierman. We have 37% of our students earned an academic letter. That you get that by having a 3.5 GPA for 2 consecutive semesters. 273 students have registered to take 413 AP exams, and that number is going to be a little light because we still have semester courses in the spring, so we have kids that still have yet to register, and that is just in our 2nd year. So a lot of good things happening academically at Jefferson. More of our activities. If you look on the left, there was a food drive this fall for the President's Bowl, and the Jefferson Cavalier student body ended up coming out on top of that. You'll see our academic letter banquet in the bottom center. And then you'll see our comp cheer team took 3rd place the last 2 years in comp cheer. And in the top right-hand corner is our girls basketball team from last spring that took 3rd, and our boys basketball team in the lower right. So a lot of kids involved, and that adds to that experience. So Cavaliers in action. The bottom left, top right would be homecoming activities where kids are performing. You'll see some kids in art class, science class, dissecting things, and you'll see our student body at events and games. Here's a little bit about how we're using our spaces. The learning stairs, you'll see presentations there in that top left corner. As you work around clockwise, we had a Comic-Con event where our art students can put together projects and have a little Comic-Con down in our library areas they work around. The top right-hand corner would be a picture of our library from the top down, as you see kids using that. Then we have our wood shop, our winter play this last winter. And in the lower right-hand corner, as we try to reach out to all of our groups of students, we had Hispanic leaders in the community come in and talk to some groups of our students and talked about the value of education and how they're using it as they're working. Here's our homecoming court from this year. On the right is our freshman class of 2026 as we're trying to get them to learn the school song as we go through, and that's an event in and of itself. But what a great school culture and climate as at the end of games, the kids are on the court or on the field singing the school song and bringing everybody together. And there it is, in case you were wondering what the words are. We believe the kids should at least say unite, unite. Anybody can do that part as you get through it. As we close out, we do have a variety of activities. So the fine arts, you got your band in the top right, show choir in the center, the cheerleading squad on the right, and then we have a couple classrooms where they're working on things. The top left is a physics class doing an egg drop and learning about conservation of momentum. And then what we're all here for is graduation. So this is the class of 2023, the inaugural class of Jefferson High School, which was about 160 students. This year, we look forward to our senior class being about 360 students. So we will see as Jefferson continues to learn and grow as a community. At this time, if there's any questions that we can answer, we have our webpage and also our activities Twitter piece that we try to push information out on too. But thank you guys for the time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're excited about it.
How can you not be excited about school?
Right.
Absolutely.
I know my kids have several friends that go to Jefferson and have nothing but great things to say about the activities and the way. I know when I go to games, I'm always shocked at how packed your student section is, and it's just a great. They're very involved. They're very attentive. I love their themes. Like they just have a good representation, and so I think that there's a lot of excitement about a new building. But I also agree with what you're saying is that it really is the people and how you get them involved. And starting off with a great group of leaders of seniors that you had last year who really dug in and created some things to make it, even though they were only going to be there for a year, they were still invested in wanting to make it a great place. And I think it has a really, really bright future of people wanting to be there and go and learn and enjoy and experience the unique culture of that high school. So thank you for all of your leadership and work out there too.
You're welcome. Thanks for the kind words. I know when you see the kids get involved, and it is about the kids and the staff, but it is about the people and the buy-in and how they take care of each other, which is a good thing. So I know they've used all means, but Mr. Conrad, all means all. And I go, yes, you're correct. I go, but we do have to wait for certain things like driver's licenses and things like that. So, but it's a great place to be, just like all the Sioux Falls schools are.
Parking is definitely a jealousy issue with the other schools. They can't believe when they're driving your parking lot and there's like so many spots and there's not at other schools. So enjoy that while it lasts.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
I just want to add, I was out there a couple of times over the last week, and I think whenever you build a new school and you have spaces that are some of those informal spaces, you wonder how and will they really be used well. And today they were in all of them. And I asked a couple of the kids just, do you sit here often or is this just once in a while? And they said, we're here every day in the study rooms and in those commons areas. And it's just interesting to think about the concept of school when you have those spaces for learning as well as our traditional spaces, but it's nice to see them well used. So good job on the design, Mr. Kreider.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Drive safe.
Yes.
Okay, we had no new conflicts of interest, so move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Moving on to item 10, supplemental consent agenda, approval of claims to Sanford Health. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes with one abstention from Board Member Ryder. And now we are on to the reports of the superintendent. Dr. Stalem.
Yep, tonight we have, I believe, our first official update on our after-school program with Rebecca Wimmer. So we're going to ask her to come up and cover that for us. We're excited about the direction as we take what we have been doing for programming and just continuing to build all that out so that we have a model program for all of our schools for great places for kids to be before and after school. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Excellent. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to share a little bit. I have been with the Sioux Falls School District just about a year. It'll be a year at the end of December, and I'm just really fortunate to be part of such a great community here at the school district. So tonight I want to talk a little bit about after school and share with you where we've been as a school district, that little bit of history, where we are currently, as well as where we're planning to go in the future. There's a lot of exciting things, as Dr. Stavum said, that have been happening over the last year, and I'm just really excited to share those with you. So starting with our Kids Inc. program, I have had the opportunity to see a lot of programs across the country for after school and summer programs. I've been on national committees that have helped develop standards for after school and summer programming. So in my opinion, I've seen a lot of things out there. And so coming to the Sioux Falls School District, I really thought I would see a quality program, some of the stuff that I've seen across the country, but I don't think that I was prepared for the exceptional level of programming that the Sioux Falls School District has. The Kids Inc. program has standards that far exceed what national standards would be for after-school programming. connecting that to our curriculum, to those standards that the South Dakota Department of Education puts out there for us. It's just an incredible program, and that's evidenced by the use that it gets with our families. We currently have well over 500 students on a wait list for our Kids Inc. program. And were it not for challenges for staffing, we would definitely take those students in and be able to provide that. But it is just an exceptional program. So very excited that we have such a strong foundation. With that, as we look to kind of that future, I know that we have a really good place to launch from. So as I think about kind of where we are as a school district, and obviously hired me a year ago, if we have such a strong program, why are we looking to change? That's a lot of the questions that I've gotten from staff as we've talked about changes from parents is, if we're so strong as a Sioux Falls school district, then why are we making changes? And I think our why comes in what our community currently offers. We are also part of quite an incredible community. I've been here for nearly 30 years and have had the opportunity to work in a number of capacities for the last 25 years, working particularly with children and youth and those that are at risk. I've seen kids in residential settings. I've been part of South Dakota Department of Social Services and working in child protection. I've been part of after-school programs and seen what those look like. And we have a very giving, generous, well-resourced community. We have many programs out there, many after-school programs out there that are exceptional quality. What we don't have is a coordination of those services or services that really reach out to those families that maybe can't afford it. Kids Inc. is no different. As I looked at our Kids Inc. program last year and really took a look at who's using our program, in our Sioux Falls School District, about 47% of our children qualify for free or reduced lunch. In our Kids Inc. program, only 12% of our children qualify for free or reduced lunch, and most of those children are on child care assistance, which tells us that even though Kids Inc. provided discounts to families on free or reduced, those discounts were at a rate that was really not affordable. Just to give you an idea, our rate on a weekly basis for families that are full pay was $50 a week, but if you're a family who qualifies for free lunch, which means that you have very little income coming into your house, our fees were still at $30 a week. And so for families, it just wasn't affordable, and so they weren't enrolling in that program. This was something as a community we were seeing as a whole, and understood that there had to be some changes in our community if we wanted to reach those kids. And so in 2017, Sioux Falls Thrive was initiated. Some of you may be familiar with that, but it's a cradle to career initiative that really looks at some of the challenges our community has and tries to coordinate efforts. One of their teams that they put together was the out of school time safety team, and was really looking at those periods of times when children aren't in school, which is about 84% of children's time is spent out of those school buildings. What are our children doing? Are they safe? And as a community, how do we make sure that if they are in situations that maybe aren't safe, what are we doing to address those? As part of that, Augustana Research did a study and really looked at where are our Sioux Falls kids and what community resources do we have. And what they found is that of the children in elementary, which for the Sioux Falls School District, that's roughly 11,500 students, 4,800 of those students spend time unsupervised after school. And many of those as many as 15 hours unsupervised. And so when I think of little peanuts like this that you can see up there, or I think about our Kids Inc. program when we have 6, 7, 8-year-olds running around, and I think about those students spending 15 hours or more unsupervised, that's our why as to why we need things to change. So as a group, our Thrive Action team kind of formed and started ideating what would it look like if we could change that scenario in Sioux Falls? What would it look like if we could take things apart and put it back together and make sure that every child has access to a high quality program? And in that process, really understood some of the research pieces that go into after school. And there is a large body of research out there that really shows that after-school programs have a significant impact. Those impacts come in the form of better grades, particularly in math and reading, better attendance in school, all the way to better graduation rates, higher earning income in adulthood, more likely to participate in post-secondary education, less likely to have at-risk behaviors such as use of drugs or alcohol, teen pregnancy. And so if we know that after-school programs are good for kids, and we know that we have 4,800 elementary students and another 4,000 middle and high school students that lack appropriate after-school, we needed to take action. And so what we did was formed a community collaborative that looked at all of the resources that we have in the community, looked at the structures that we had and said, what can we change to really be more efficient and effective in what we're doing? We don't have, while we have a very generous community, we don't have an unlimited number of financial resources. Anytime you have a child in an after-school program, it costs roughly $5,000 to care for that student. When we did a look at our existing structure, while the Sioux Falls School District had Kids Inc. inside its building, many of our nonprofit partners would pick up kids from after school and take them to separate buildings, kids that can't afford care inside the Kids Inc. or the school district. When we examined that as a group, it costs almost twice as much to care for a student off-site as it does on-site. And those are community dollars that we were using to provide scholarships to those kids. And so just looking at simple logistics, if we transitioned that and we stopped taking children off-site to nonprofits and we kept those kids inside our building, we could utilize the same number of community dollars and serve almost twice as many kids. And so that is where our concept for the new after-school program came from. Our case for transformational change, or what we're looking for, is to redesign that program. And we're modeling that after what's called community learning centers. Not only is it an after-school program for kids, but it really focuses on how do we wrap our arms around the entire family. We understand that kids in and of themselves are not independent of the environment around them. And so the things that happen within their homes, the struggles that parents may have, that all affects a child's learning. And so if we're going to put the effort into making sure children have a safe and appropriate place to be after school, and we're going to make sure that they have the resources that they need, the life skill development, the workforce development, then we also need to make sure that we're developing families along at the same time. And so the community learning center model really lifts up an entire family, regardless of where that family comes from, whether they have struggles or whether they're settled or whatever it may be, making sure that our entire community is wrapping around those. The community schools really functions on 4 pillars. One of them is the student supports, those things that they get inside the school day. And then that second pillar is really what we're talking about, that after school foundation, and making sure that there is extended learning opportunities, the types of things that we see in our existing Kids Inc. program, as well as the types of things that we see in our community programs. When you look at the nonprofit programs that we have out there, we have tremendous programs that are providing exceptional care and services to kids, but they're very siloed. And so being able to bring all those services into the schools and making sure that our kids get access to all of those things is really what we're after. This weekend, I had the opportunity to be at one of our pilot programs we have going on right now at Terry Redland. And one of the community partners, Move to Heal, is offering kids ballet lessons and being able to give them an opportunity that many would never have the chance to see. And so last night we had a pizza party at Terry Redland and they got to practice, and they'll be performing. For those of you that don't have anything going on, tomorrow night at 5:30, the kids will be performing the Nutcracker, and they'll be performing with other kids that are part of this group, other adults that are part of dance, and so they'll be a very small piece of a larger production. But as I sat there yesterday and watched those kids that I've had the opportunity to work with And I know that they don't have those same privileges. They don't have the ability to be part of a ballet class. Their parents can't afford those costs. As I saw them yesterday, they're so proud and they're absolutely beaming. And all of their parents are sitting there with their cameras on the bleachers, taking pictures of their kids participating in something. That's what our why is. That's why we're doing the things that we're doing, going through the processes we are, because there's kids out there that deserve the opportunity, just like every other child, to be involved in things like that. With our programs that we're developing, we will plan to launch this fall, and it'll be a coordinated effort with the Sioux Falls School District as well as several nonprofit partners. It'll be located for elementary kids at all 21 of our elementary sites. After school programming that will be available. So just to give you an idea, this year we're piloting at 4 sites with one of our nonprofits. And so instead of that nonprofit coming and picking up 100+ children and taking them off-site to their location, we've changed that dynamic. This year they are on site with us, working right alongside of our kids. So if you go into Terry Redland School any afternoon into the Commons area, you're gonna see 6 or 7 staff and you're gonna see approximately 100 students. And when you walk in there, you will have no idea which staff belong to the nonprofit or which staff belong to the school district. You'll have no idea which children are being paid or subsidized for their program and which children have their parents paying for their program. You have no idea which children are behind in their academics, which children have behaviors. All you see is kids engaged in after-school programming that are getting the same opportunities as every other child should get. That's the kind of program that we're developing, and this fall will launch in all 21 of our elementary schools. That will include tutoring programming, so making sure that those kids that are behind academically have the opportunity to get caught up. They have opportunity for one-on-one and small group time with some of our existing teachers and educational assistants who are putting in the time to be able to tutor them after school. They'll have enrichment program like we talked about, the ballet classes, the things like that that are brought in. Washington Pavilion comes in with action arts and science programs to really enhance what our kids are getting. So those will be built into their programming. They'll also have meals and snacks. For many of our kids that are food insecure, having that snack available after school and knowing that they can also walk out the door at night with a meal before they go home is a big thing for our kids. I watch them in the afternoons when I go to those 4 sites. We've implemented the meal program in 4 sites. And as soon as it's that 5:30 time frame and that cooler opens up, the line starts already, and those kids are anxious to take those meals home and make sure that they have something to eat at night. One of the things that I think is very endearing is most of those kids will ask if there's extra because they have little siblings at home, and that they know there's likely not anything at home for those kids to eat. And so they want to make sure that if there's extra, they can take it home as well. And then transportation is another piece. One of the barriers that the Augustana Research Institute found that prevented parents from getting their kids into an after-school program was transportation. And obviously they can get to school, but then who's there to pick them up at 6 o'clock? Parents either are working or maybe don't have the transportation. And so through grant funding, we are able to provide transportation home for those students who need it. As we develop our elementary program, we'll also focus on that middle school and high school age group. Very similar in terms of the types of things that we want to offer, but obviously in middle school and high school, you offer things a little bit differently. So very interest-based, making sure that we're listening to our students as to what types of programs they want to see. We recently did some surveys, particularly at McGovern Middle School, to kind of find out what is it that our students want. And I really anticipated that we would hear things like, I want video games, I want foosball tables, things like that, and it was very different. They wanted things like, I want cooking class. I really enjoyed when I could go to cooking class, which is one of the enhancements that we put into place a couple of years ago prior to COVID. I want a place to hang out with my friends. I want a place where I can play basketball. they don't get the opportunity maybe to play basketball. They're not part of a team, but they really just want a space to be able to play. And the other thing that they mentioned was they need food. Food comes up so many times, but for these kids particularly, they mentioned that food is a concern. But they did clarify that it has to be good food. So if we're going to make sure they have a meal, they would like it to be good food, and they gave us some examples of what constitutes good food. So we'll take that to heart. But really just interested in pursuing those areas where they can learn and develop. For high school, we're along that same path. Are starting the process of surveying our high school students to find out what are some of the things that they need so that we can help develop those programs. Some of the benefits we've talked about a little bit as we look at transforming this program across the community and really changing how after school looks in our community. We need to know that there's going to be benefits. So benefits to students and families, understanding that these models across the country, when you look at studies that have been done to look at the impact of these after-school programs, again, the increased engagement in school, better grades, better investment by parents in their child's education, better attendance rates, and then the local nonprofits. And I haven't talked a lot about the local nonprofits, but as you're coming to the table, obviously we know that there's a benefit for our kids, but what does it mean for our nonprofits? And as I started this process and started bringing this community collaborative together to talk about this concept of a community-based school program, there was a lot of nervousness on the part of our nonprofits. A year ago, I was the CEO of a nonprofit. I know where they're coming from. You've developed your identity as a nonprofit, as in, this is what we do, this is who we are. We have separate buildings where we take children to, we provide after-school care, and I'm standing there asking them to do something completely different. I'm asking them to change their identity, to change their processes, to come together and develop something as a unit, as opposed to developing their own agency, and that's a big ask. But I can tell you these nonprofits sit there and we meet generally on a bi-weekly basis. They sit there and talk about the benefits to their kids, but also the benefits to their nonprofits. One of the first agencies that I went to, I sat down with the CEO and we were talking through, this concept of a community partnership. And he had his program director there, and he was pretty hesitant on whether he should go along with this concept. Kind of said, we've tried collaborative stuff before. It really hasn't panned out very well for us. And so he turned to his program coordinator and said, what do you think? And she said, if we can serve twice as many kids, how can we not do this? And that's what I'm seeing from our nonprofits. They're looking at this as an opportunity to really expand what we're doing. At the same time, it frees up resources for them. The nonprofit that we're partnering with this fall, by moving into the school district and partnering with us, they were able to give up a lease on a building and move one of their other programs into the space that they had their youth program in. And so significant savings for them that they were able to turn around and put those resources right back into community programs. So a lot of benefits for our nonprofits. And then our benefits for the community as we continue to expand this program, reach more kids, we're able to see some of those impacts. Juvenile crime is just one of those predictors that we look at and could see as much as a 70% reduction in juvenile crime with these types of programs if they're done similarly to those that we've seen across the country. Resource development, obviously I've talked a lot about the benefits, but it does come at a cost. And when we talk about the cost of caring for a student is roughly $5,000 a year in elementary school, those fees are often covered by parents when they're paying for services. But what happens to those kids and those fees when families can't afford services? This past year, we were able to put in for 2 specific grants, a United Way grant, which we received, that will support an additional 100 student scholarships, And then we also received a 21st Century grant, which is equivalent to about $1.5 million over 5 years. That will serve an additional 100 students. So just in the last year alone, we've been able to increase our scholarships by 200 students through those grants. We will continue those efforts, continue to apply for grant opportunities so we can reach additional children, but it will also take funding for the middle school and high school levels that will need to seek partnerships with individuals and businesses in our community. So we've been working on some of those processes already and have a number of pledges from community partners that have said that they will invest in this resource, understanding that that investment likely will lead to a stronger community. Just to give you an idea of kind of where we sit, we look at, you know, a multi-faceted funding approach. Some of those are parent fees, some grants, some individual donor funds, but looking at that as an entire picture, we believe that we have the ability to really achieve this and provide services to any student that would want it across the community. And then the last thing I'll talk about is measuring success. As a good quality school district, we have to have data measurements to make sure that what we're doing inside of our programming is making an impact. And so as part of that, we will be looking at a number of different measures: school attendance, after school participation, standardized test scores, academic performance, parent engagement. All of those pieces we'll be looking at on an annual basis to make sure that we're reaching those milestones, that we're accomplishing the things that we know we can accomplish with quality after school programming. So I am excited to continue forward. Look forward to giving you additional updates as we move along and as we launch. Would welcome any questions as we're going through this process. We want to make sure that it's a process that our families feel comfortable with, our community feels comfortable with, and our community partners are comfortable in their role.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Just an observation. The Generation Xers in the room, or the MTV generation, that was me, my generation, maybe remember the term latchkey kid. And just because we don't hear the term latchkey kid anymore doesn't mean that it still exists. But what it means is it's probably taken us 40 years to really be honest on the impacts of being home alone. And not home alone in the sense of the Christmas movie we pull out this time of year, but the real impact of home alone. And what that means for children that truly have, of no fault of their own, nor their parents, no other option. So to the extent that the community really came around this issue with the key stakeholders and Thrive hitting really the nail on the head, it sounds to me in your role in this, you really hit it out of the ballpark in terms of what you're going to offer after school. It's really exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just add that there are so many kids who, for whatever the reason is, whether it's financial, whether it's transportation, don't have the opportunity to participate in other activities after school, in the evening, on the weekends, whatever it might be. And so you see that as kids get older, them not participating in things at high school or not feeling confident. And it's not even always about the activity. It's about the skills that they learn during those activities, that teamwork and that communication and things like that. And so I think the benefits that you list are numerous. And can we measure all of them on a test score or something like that? No. But can we get people who are engaged? Can we get kids who love to be in their building? You know, like it's their, right now they might be leaving or they might be going home to an empty house or whatever, but now to be able to stay in their school building, hopefully that makes them want to come to school more often and be engaged while they're there. They feel comfortable there. They get to do fun things. And so it has a good association for them. So I think in general, it's just an amazing opportunity for our community and the partners. You know, we have so many daycares or so many nonprofits who everyone's hiring. And so how can we even come together and work and say, let's all take care of these same kids. But if we all do it together, then we can take care of those kids and maybe take care of more of them versus having our ratios be all wonky all over, you know? And so I think there's just a lot of win-wins in this situation. And so I'm excited to see the opportunities for our kids and our families in general too. So thank you for your work and collaboration for the last year. I know it's been a lot of work, but I think we'll see the benefits from it.
Thank you. I recently had a parent that we were able to enroll in our Terry Redland program at no cost to the family. And last week when we were there on Tuesday, mom came and that student has only been going there about a month. And she said that already she has seen such a difference in that student's social development. They're more outgoing and willing to initiate things with peers, more excited to get up in the morning and go to school, and she attributes that to the after-school program. And so if we can see that kind of change just in a short month, imagine what we can do when we have a K-12 after-school coordinated program where our students can be.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion and a second to approve the after-school programming report, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. On to the next report.
Noel will provide for us our Continue to Learn plan update, which is required every 6 months.
There we go. Thank you, and good evening. Tonight I bring to you the updates and the review of our Continue to Learn plan, which is our Sioux Falls School District plan for the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously, as stated, the purpose of this report is just to bring the updates to you. It's a biannual update that is required as we go through this process. And so that will occur now and then again, likely in June. Some of the explanation of this, we obviously started out with our Return to Learn plan in that very first year as we came back into school after that start of the pandemic. And then after that, changed that to our Continue to Learn plan that we've had in place now for the past 2 years. And it really summarizes all the efforts and the things that we do in the Sioux Falls School District to make sure that we take care of our staff and students and families as we go through that pandemic and the post things of that, some of that being the learning loss and the health and safety of our students. Also in there is the scheduled times that we have, and that information is updated as needed. We have the biannual updates that we will do, one now and one in June, but we also updated in the fall, if you recall, when we had the new guidance that came out with the CDC, and we will continue to do that as needed. And we do have a committee that comes together to be able to go through and review this document. It is now at the point in time where we had to start with hundreds of pages, and we're down now to about 30 pages as things change drastically over time. So the changes that we have bringing forward to you this evening are minimal. Part of those changes I've gone through, and they're redlined in the document that you have that is attached as well, but I will just update those for you here briefly. First of all, throughout the document, we continually track the date that we maintained those changes in case we're ever called into question on that. We have that documented throughout the Continue to Learn plan. We also updated all the links. Some of those links needed to be just updated as we go through the plan to make sure that they are accurate and up to date. On page 8 of the plan, there's a small portion there with the transportation services as far as the cleaning and the mask protocols. Students can still, obviously, and we still do have some of our students that wear masks on a daily basis, but it's not something that's given to each one of the students as they come onto the bus now. So just a few changes, very minor in nature there. Page 10, symptomatic students, as they come down, because a lot of those testing protocols have changed, they are offered. It did say that they must wear a mask. They are offered a mask to utilize. If not, then they're just separated until those things are until the child is picked up by their parents, depending on what the symptoms are. And so just very minor changes there as well. Page 14 was just some clarifications on the language. There was a duplication in 2 of the sentences, so we just eliminated one of those sentences. Again, a very minor change in that. Page 19, we clarified the end date of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the LEAVE Act that was in there, because that was no longer utilized in the 2021 school year. And one person had just found that a little bit confusing with the language, so we just clarified that language as we went there because that LEAVE Act did end for that school year. And then finally, just the budget updates, pages 26 through 28. There's 4 different changes in there. A biggest part of that would just make the changes to the salary increases that occurred with the staff that came after that budget time. So that was updated in there as part of the dollars spent in the budgetary process. One other, that the cost for the SIPS teachers was significantly less than originally thought, so that was reflected in the report as well. And then one other area had to reduce costs, and that was reflected in the report. So just minor changes to the budgetary area that was in the report. And finally, again, just to reiterate, we will go through and approximately every 6 months review the Continue to Learn plan for the next 2 years until that time expires of that requirement. And the administrative recommendation this evening is to acknowledge the presentation of the 22-23 Continue to Learn plan updates as proposed to you. And I would stand by for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Knoll? Seeing none. I get a motion and a second to approve the Continue to Learn plan report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And can I get a motion to move into executive session per SDCL 1-25-2, front photos 2.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We will move into executive session. Thank you, everybody.